Welcome back to Season 4 of the Sober Motivation Podcast. Join me, Brad, each week as my guests and I share incredible and powerful sobriety stories. We're here to show sobriety is possible, one story at a time. Let's go. In this episode of the podcast, Emily joins the show to share her powerful story of growing up with alcoholic parents, her own struggles with addiction, and the journey to sobriety. Emily recounts her move to Texas, feelings of disconnection, and major life challenges, including an unplanned pregnancy and battling an eating disorder. We explore Emily's slow, nonlinear path to recovery after decades of chronic relapse, 20 institutions, and a DUI with her child in the car, and ongoing neurological damage from alcohol use, all while mothering 4 children. She discusses her multiple stints in rehab and what led her to get sober again in 2016. Emily also speaks about her memoir, Wife, Mother, Drunk, which explores her family's generational trauma, her personal experiences, and her path to healing and understanding. And this is Emily's story on the Sober Motivation Podcast. Welcome back to another episode. Brad here. If it's your first time here, this will be new for you. If you've been here for a while, you've probably heard this before, but we would love to have you in the Sober Motivation community. I was thinking about what makes a community special. In the sober space, we have a lot of meetings. Yes, we do have that. We have a great way to chat. We have a lot of vulnerability, a lot of connection. But I was thinking, what does really make a community special? And maybe it's obvious to everyone else and wasn't to me, but it's the people that are involved. I had one person reach out to me recently that just couldn't believe it. They had joined a couple of meetings and people were sending them messages afterwards, just cheering for them. And for them, it was so confusing. Why do these people that I don't even really know care about my sober journey? And people that I know that are close to me might not even be as interested in my sober journey as these kind of quote unquote strangers are. And there could be layers to that, but I think one of the points to make there is that people that have been through it and understand how difficult it is to get out of it, they have a lot of empathy to deploy back into other people that are still struggling. So I want to give all of you an invite to come and check us out at the Sober Motivation community. We have daily meetings where you get connected with an awesome community, a bunch of different hosts. I host 3 meetings a week, and we have, I want to say, about 10 different people that host meetings. So you're going to get a big variety of perspectives and everything like that. And that's what's important, because I'm not sitting up here like I have all the answers and I know everything. Far from it. I mean, that would be extremely naive of me to think anywhere close to that. And I definitely don't. But a lot of people that are part of the community have come on the podcast and shared. And a lot of people that listen to the podcast have come into the community, and it's really been incredible. And we had that big event in Toronto, and, you know, that's still there in my memories. You know, it was a core memory. It'll be there forever. Kind of our first event where we spent, you know, a year or a year plus, some of us, in this virtual space. And then we hung out in real life, and it was like we didn't even skip a beat. I mean, it was just incredible. All around, just incredible. My friend Melissa, her and I recorded a podcast specifically about the meetup that we had in Toronto with the community. Our thoughts, our takeaways over on the Sober New Yorker podcast. So if you want that link, just send me a message on Instagram. I can get it for you, or just search on Spotify or Apple, and you'll be able to track it down. But it was a really cool experience. So people that are part of the community are going to get invited to upcoming events and stuff that we're going to be putting together, because it was just that cool. The weekend was just that incredible to connect with other people that are on the same journey. And that's what it's all about. That's what brings us together. Everybody in the community has different backgrounds and different things that brought them right to that moment. But when we land there, our mission is all the same: to leave the alcohol behind. It's to live our best lives. And by the time we get there, we've realized. And by the time you get here, listening to the show, you've realized alcohol is not helping you out in any way at all. Maybe you're still believing in the idea that it is, but I'm telling you, from my experience, there's no benefits. At least from my life. My life, there's no benefits. There never will be. There never really was. I think it was all just a lie that I just bought into and believed that it was helping me out in areas of my life, and it never was. It was never authentic. That's the thing with alcohol. It's, yeah, maybe it helps you relax and connect with other people. It did that for me, but it was never authentically me. And I think when we go against the grain for long enough and get so far away from our truth, that's when we start to have that internal struggle that a lot of people talk about on the podcast. So would love to have you guys join in the community. Incredible stuff. We're looking at crossing over 200 members. So we're really making a big push here. You're going to hear a lot about the community because I had a few people message me and they say, I didn't know anything about the community. And I'm thinking, you know what? I just don't talk about it enough. And part of me is like, well, I don't want to bother people. If they're not interested, then I don't want to bother anybody. But here we are. And hopefully I'll bother a few people that'll take action and enter into the community and potentially change everything for you. It has for so many people. So the first month is free. I hope to see you there. Come and join a meeting. Come say hi. We have a chat there. We'll connect. And I really love when people from the podcast jump in and, share their experience and start chatting and, open up and let people know who you really are. And I think that's when the healing begins on this whole journey, because I think we all know, at least I do, this is a lot less about just not drinking alcohol than it is about all of the things that come afterwards. So, and if you're enjoying the podcast, don't forget, I haven't mentioned this for a bit either, you can jump over to buymeacoffee.com/sobermotivation and donate to support the show. Helps covering all the subscription costs and everything else involved with keeping the show going. Thank you guys again for hanging out. Let's dive into Emily's story. This was an incredible episode, really incredible episode. I thought Emily did a really great job with sharing her story in the time constraint. I feel like we could have went on for another hour or 2 hours, and maybe we will start doing longer episodes. You guys let me know, though. Send me a message on Instagram. I always love hearing from you. And I'll drop the link to check out the community down in the show notes below, or you can also check on Instagram. Now let's get to the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Sober Motivation Podcast. Today we've got Emily with us. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Yeah, so great to have you. Glad we could share your story here on the podcast. What was it like for you growing up?
Okay, so really, I should preface this by saying both of my parents are alcoholics. I did not really realize that my mom was an alcoholic just because my dad's brand was so stereotypical, the raging alcoholic that you never know was going to explode type of situation. So I really grew up kind of wanting to be a good girl, wanting my dad to really, I wanted to be the one that kind of made him happy. And let's just say I didn't succeed. But we moved to Texas when I was in second grade, and my mom had another baby. And I really had a hard time settling in and, reestablishing my place, not just in the family, but in life around me. It was like a complete culture shock. And the dynamics of my parents was my mom was completely focused on my father. So there was, I know neglect is a really harsh word. I don't really want to say that, but it was all about, because my mom was scared too. So it was a lot of her drinking was kind of to numb out and take care of my dad's emotion.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Where were you born then? If you made this move to Texas, where were you before?
Minnesota.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a big change.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that was so different was my mom grew up with 7 brothers and sisters. So I had a lot of aunts and uncles and cousins. And in a way, I had multiple mothers, and also this established kind of like my cousins were family. And then all of a sudden, all of that was gone. And I didn't understand it. I was just a kid. So.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny that you landed in Texas too. I mean, I was born in Canada. And then when I was in, 5th grade or something, my mom, which was a single mom at the time of twins, she decided to move to Texas. So I can relate to you in a sense too. And we lived with my grandparents before that. And my
Yep.
grandmother she had what, 15, 16 brothers and sisters, aunts, uncles, everybody around, right? Like it takes a village,
That's what I
and
mean.
we had that. And then, yeah, when we went there, at the time, I didn't really know, like you mentioned, just being a kid. But when I look back, that's when my anxiety started. My self-esteem was really low. I
Same.
felt disconnected when I look back. But at the time I didn't really know what was going on. So yeah,
Where in Texas did you guys move to?
Waco, Texas.
Oh, okay. So
Same place?
no, we moved
No.
to this, it's a suburb north of Dallas called Plano at the time. And it was brand spanking new. It was like this huge explosion had happened. And I mean, everything was spotless. I'm used to, the outskirts of Minneapolis where, I mean, stuff had been there. Our house was old, everything was old, and here everything was new. All the trees were like this tall on our street. And it was so strange. It was just very weird.
Yeah. Where did things go for you from there?
I had, so my mom got sober. I did this thing that you never do in an alcoholic family. And I told someone that I think my dad might be an alcoholic. And the aftermath of that was, I was kind of the target of, my dad was very, very angry and resentful. My mom ended up taking me to an Alateen meeting, and she went, they had an Al-Anon meeting going on at the same time. She went to Al-Anon at the same time that I went to Alateen, and kind of came to the conclusion that she had a problem and she needs to quit. And I'm sure, she knew she did. But like I said, my dad's was so center stage. And so I was 15 when my mom told me, hey, I'm an alcoholic too. And, I was enraged. It felt like she just completely betrayed me. Because at the time, an alcoholic symbolized something so fierce and destructive. And I thought, how dare you? I felt very kind of alone, I think. And also, my dad just can you imagine a household where they've been married, like, I don't know, 20 years, and now my mom's going to AA, and my dad, like, nothing's the same. It was a war zone. And my mom just couldn't leave him because of financial reasons at the time. And, we were getting by, basically. My mom was always balancing the checkbook, kind of a thing. So I had just a lot of anger. I didn't know why. And in high school, I was super unpopular. Kind of a loner, couldn't quite fit in. It's sort of an affluent suburb, and it certainly was at the time that I was in high school. And so I did feel like an outsider, major. I didn't really have a friend group. And my graduating class was like, I think, around 1,400 kids. So, it's really easy to kind of disappear. So that's sort of what happened. And then I had some traumatic things happen right before my senior year. And then I went to college and had another traumatic experience my freshman year. And it was just sort of like these things were kind of piling on. I didn't know how to deal with them. They were totally shameful. I thought, oh my God, what have I done? And I just stuffed it. And we might think I'm never going to become someone like my parents,
Yeah.
And lo and behold, here I start on that same path without even really having an awareness of it.
Yeah. Well, I think even too, I hear a lot on the podcast, especially in the college years, it's just so normalized for a lot of people. So even if you do, I mean, I think as humans too, we're really good. At least I know I am really good at talking myself out of ending up like anybody else or having the consequences that they had. Like that's their story, but it'll never be mine. I'm always so interested about this topic with your parents struggling with drinking and how that affects you growing up. I hear a lot, and maybe this is relatable, maybe not, but it's like what happens in the home stays in the home. Don't talk about it, don't share about it. And whether people are outwardly saying that, that might kind of be the vibe that people have picked up. And then I see that really catching up with some people throughout their stories when things start happening in life, is because that's kind of what we've known. Is that we're not supposed to share about it, not don't get help, don't talk to anybody about it, we'll deal with it, we'll keep it here. I mean, is that relatable at all to maybe when these other things happened in your life, feeling like you didn't have the tools to reach out or to share?
I mean, definitely. And I think part of the, there's always this urge to kind of simplify the issues someone has with alcohol. Like I want it to be simple enough and easy enough that I can do this, and all my problems are going to be solved. And I think one of the things about growing up in those kind of homes is there's so much invisible tension. And when you're a child, it's sort of like either I can make this better, I'll make mommy or daddy happy, or it's I can't do anything that's gonna make this worse. So I want to be good. I mean, how good is a kid? We're all good, but still something happens. And I go into this in my book a little bit in some scenes, but we think it's our fault. We think maybe, why isn't mom or dad happy? It's also, we don't know what's going on. I did not know that it was these beverages that was destroying things. I didn't even really understand what drinking was because everyone drank. Everyone drinks. I just knew that, gosh, my mom's acting weird. Why isn't she listening to me? Why, these kind of things. And then as I got older, when I ended up my senior year, my first boyfriend, and my naivete, and this kind of goes into the fact that we don't talk about anything in an alcoholic home, is I ended up with an unplanned pregnancy at 17. And, I'm in Texas and I couldn't tell my mom. I couldn't tell anybody because I thought it's going to make, I'm going to officially be bad, but also I didn't want to burden my mom. I didn't want to bring anything how horrible, how's she going to handle this? And so we kind of take on this child caretaker sort of thing. I'm going to be able to manage my parents' emotions a little bit by my own behavior. So I think it kind of stems from that. And we don't know any different. I did not know how to share this because the way somebody treats me or acknowledges me is how I measure how lovable I am. And I wanted people, whoever you were, to accept me, like me, love me, that type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people have thrown out too, like perfectionist or overachiever, really trying to, hit the target in those areas too, right? So that maybe parents or other people around us too would maybe identify value there or see that we're doing well or, not to ripple the waters. I hear that.
I think they kind of go hand in hand, actually, because if we can, master these, these really high achievements that, appear to be perfection or we're striving to do this, that the feedback we're going to get from that, whether it's, it's almost always external, right? It's whatever we're trying to, whether it's a grade, a college acceptance, whatever this is, it makes us feel like, wow, I have value. I'm important in this world, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I've heard a lot of people share on that. I mean, it wasn't personally my experience, but on the podcast, I've heard a lot of people that, grew up in homes, dynamics are probably a little bit different across the board, but very relatable to, what they kind of shared. Felt like they had to grow up pretty quick and, stuff like that. And I think like what you mentioned too is kind of the nail on the head too, is when you're kind of going through it all when you're young, don't really realize it. But looking back, I mean, obviously, you've done the work and reflecting back in this sort of time in your life to really see things for, where you are today. How do things look like for you in university? And you mentioned too, like you start leaning into drinking then and in college?
So I feel like I was prepped for it. Like I could have really, and I did go out and drink and go to bars with fake IDs and get myself into, a big bunch of trouble. But my primary, I don't think I went full fledged into it because I had another addiction, an eating disorder, and like this addiction to being attractive and appealing and thin, beautiful, this sort of chaos that, as strange as it sounds, I was so obsessed with calories and my body image that drinking was, going to get me fat, the freshman 15 kind of thing. So while I would go out and completely just binge drink on the weekends every once in a while, or that was part of my thing. It wasn't, in hindsight, looking back, I don't think it was as bad as it very much could have been.
Yeah.
Because I was, we do this addiction switcheroo. And at the time I was more focused on another one.
Yeah. And when you look at that in that time, I mean, the fuel behind that, like, is there any part of that that's like a sense of control, like opposite of maybe the chaos growing up, or?
Yeah, 100%, definitely. And it's also something that is untouchable in my head. Like, you can't make me do X, Y, and Z. The first time I threw up was in high school, and I was still living at home. And man, it was the same sort of relief that you get when you take that first drink of alcohol. It was like, wow, I just got rid of all that angst and disturbance inside me. And I feel relief, a sense of relief. And, what do they say? Like relief and comfort. So
Yeah,
there was that. I also think that there was a point in time when I was, before my mom got sober, and our house was so chaotic that I would eat my feelings. So food was comfort to me. And later, when I got into high school and I was struggling with bulimia, I got thinner. And man, people liked me a lot more when I was thinner. I got more attention and I was more complimentary. And it's such a screwed up system. But it was like, oh, okay, people like me now, so I need to keep doing this. And, then it just ran away with me.
Yeah. But this going on, what you're sharing there too before, kind of not put the brakes on, the alcohol, but you were more mindful in that direction too, right? So, but school, I mean, are you doing well in school, grades wise and showing up? And
yeah, I'm still kicking myself because I did get a B in a walking class that I took, and I'm like, oh gosh. But yeah, I mean, I still cared about my grades, and I'm trying to manage all these different things. And I was at A&M, and I was doing okay with that. I was proud to be in college. And it's sort of like, look back, and I didn't really know what I was like. Was I career oriented? Was I really driven to be a fill in the blank? No, I wasn't. I was so aimless, but I know I needed to get good grades and, I didn't want to flunk out. And so yeah, I was a good student. And then my, it was like in the spring, I was sexually assaulted. And I mean, I just went crazy after that.
Yeah. What year were you in when that happened?
I was a freshman.
Oh, that was when you were a freshman. Wow.
Yeah.
And this is sort of the event you were sharing before that happened, and not really knowing where to talk to, or like talk to anybody or share. Or,
I think because I didn't know how to. It's like I just assumed, wow, this is my fault, and I know people are going to really grill me if I say anything. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't deal with it. I mean, I just tried to lock it away. And that doesn't really work.
Yeah.
It comes out different ways, but that was one of those things where, we have like, and that is legit trauma, as is, I got an abortion when I was 17. And I mean, I'd never even been to like a female doctor. The whole thing, it was like, I was so unprepared, inexperienced, uneducated. It's like, almost like I raised myself, and now here I'm in all these terrible things. And they just sort of pile on top of each other. And
yes.
I don't know that's happening. I think, oh, that happened. It's in the past. I'm moving on, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you really lean into drinking and stuff after that. How do you wrap up college and stuff? How does that look for you?
I mean, that was very adventuresome. So I ended up leaving A&M at the end of my sophomore year. I got married. I moved to Idaho with my husband. And
oh, wow.
Another culture shock, another case of massive homesickness. Ended up going into treatment for eating disorder, and I was served divorce papers while I was in treatment. So moved back to Texas, freshly divorced, enrolled in classes at Texas Women's University in Denton, and started to kind of tiptoe in the I didn't really feel like I was dating, but there was a good friend of mine who I got back in contact with, and I ended up pregnant. So I was 23, pregnant, and became a single mom, still in school, working full time. And
this was back in Texas.
Yeah.
How did this
all happen within, the marriage and all that within 2 years, I think, less than 2 years.
Yeah. Things picked up speed for you then. So you go to your first kind of rehab, right? Rehab, you called it for your eating disorder?
Or it was at a
treatment.
It was at a hospital, a medical hospital in Dallas for eating disorder. And I think I did not know what was going on, but what I would call it now is like a PHP, like a partial hospitalization type of thing.
And was that like your idea? Like you were interested in doing that, or how did that come about?
Well, I think people were really concerned about me. My mom was very concerned. I had started, which before the internet, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know that anybody else is doing it too. It's so unspoken and unseen. And I had started cutting on myself a lot. I did not know at the time that anyone had ever thought of that or had ever done it. I don't know where it came from. And I got to that eating disorder treatment, and I saw for the first time a girl that had cut marks on her ankles. And she saw mine and she was like, you do it too? And I was like, wow, I'm with my people in a psychiatric unit of a hospital in Dallas. So, that was really eye-opening, but it was such a different world. I mean, there's no, you can't how do you even get educated on these kind of things? It's impossible. So I did that, and it was good. It was really good. And, shortly thereafter, I feel like I'm back on track and another zinger comes my way. So.
Yeah. What's the zinger?
Getting pregnant with my daughter.
Getting pregnant. Okay. Yeah. And then where do you go from there? I mean, that's, 23 years old.
It's weird. It's sort of like after I had my daughter, I felt, as hokey as this is, I felt kind of like, oh, I'm purified. I'm now, a mother and all is new. And here I go. So I was still in school and, I would sometimes take her to class with me and, the professor or other students would take turns holding her. And it was really great until my senior year. And she was over a year. And it's funny because I remember this so vividly that I was driving home from campus, which is about a 45-minute drive, and it was a Friday, and I was absolutely swamped with classwork. And I thought, gosh, other moms have a glass of wine at the end of the week. And, I'm of legal age. Like, what's the harm of that? And it sounded great. And I stopped and bought myself a little 4-pack of mini wines, but I didn't want to drink in front of my mom, which is very, very, I think, thought-provoking, to say the least. And I had this daughter, so I would sneak into my bedroom and drink it alone and then walk out and feel like, oh, okay. But I was like, this is not good. This is not normal. And this is screwed up. So I knew, but I wasn't, I didn't think there was a problem, but there was something in my gut that was like, this is kind of screwed up. So
yeah. Were you staying with your parents then at that time?
So my parents had divorced by then, and I moved out of my apartment and in with my mother. My mom was still working full time, and so she was supportive for sure. And but that's really where I would say I really hit the danger zone with the drinking, and it was shortly thereafter that I was just kind of wheels off.
Yeah, shortly after there. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of some of those red flags, I guess we could call it, right? When we look back, there's those certain behaviors maybe that, are identifiers, I guess, or maybe that we're headed in that direction too. And it seems like you kind of, in your gut anyway, connected the dots of sort of that behavior, how you were kind of going about your drinking. I mean, what you said probably makes a ton of sense. I think of, moms have a wine at the end of the week or however that plays out. But maybe I would kind of wonder too, maybe how different it looked, for everybody, right? And how that kind of, played out.
And I think what I saw in my parents was like the end phase, right? It's like when it's already, they've already been drinking since their 20s or teens, So I see this end up the spectrum with my parents. And me over here on the beginning stage, I don't see any, my drinking, no, it's not like theirs.
Yeah.
But I don't realize that we're on the same path, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. They're just farther along
Yeah.
than I am.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes so much sense. I was just wondering too, and I mean, related to the story in a sense, but do you think there would have been anything said, done that would have opened your eyes to maybe the bigger picture of kind of how this thing potentially could end? I mean, I think we can, history tells us a lot, right? Where we see where other people go, and we could do a pretty good job guessing it. But I think the reality is none of us really know what tomorrow or the next day or 20 years from now holds. So I mean, I don't know that we could say with guarantee, if you're identifying red flags in your early to mid 20s, that it's going to be the same unless you get sober. I think the odds are probably great that things are going to continue to go downhill. But is there anything that could have changed the way that you're going about it? And I'm thinking about that for the big reason about anybody who's listening to the podcast right now. And they're kind of in that spot where they're keeping things together, right? It's a spectrum. You have one side, the whole world is falling apart, and the other side is somebody's never drank before. And then there's a ton of us that fall in the middle at different notches. Anything come to mind or no?
So hindsight is tricky because I try not to apply what I know now with where I was then. And I don't know if I would have been willing or able to hear something at that point in my 20s. I do think that really this starts super young, because if I had been growing up as a child and could at least know that what was going on with my parents had to do with drinking and what that was, just some age appropriate understanding, that it would have impacted me on I'd be able to try to possibly envision the bigger picture by the time I hit my 20s. I was so used to, my life was snowball to where snowball was normal. And I didn't really kind of connect anything at the time. And
yeah,
the time moves slower in real life than it does in our when we look at our timeline, right? It's just regular, minute by minute. And I didn't know what the answer was. I didn't know who I was, right? I mean, we skipped that part growing up to where we kind of figure out who and what we are. And when my daughter was 3, I thought here's a really put together guy, even though I don't really have anything in common with him. I think I'll get married. And that's what I did, and then again,
married, yeah.
I'm divorced again, right? And I don't know how to live on my own after that. And I'm failing so hardcore that I'm drinking to not feel that failure. And I also don't think I really comprehended the fact that there's not a lot of room in my family tree to be a regular drinker, to have normal drinking experience. So I missed my daughter's first day of kindergarten because I was in my first rehab.
How old were you then?
I think I was 28.
How did this come about, this rehab?
Okay, my first rehab came because I was living in Florida with my daughter, and I stumbled into a horrific relationship with a guy who was a heroin addict. But I was so ridiculously, I think it's stupid, but I didn't really know what heroin was. I mean, I had never done any drugs so And also this was the beginning of like Oxycontin days. And
Yeah.
so he was getting prescriptions for that as well. And it was a real nightmare. And my mom ended up buying me a plane ticket to a family reunion in Minnesota. And when I got back, there was a little bit of an intervention where I went to treatment for the first time at a place called Valley Hope.
Yeah.
Um,
What are your thoughts on that, or what were your thoughts at the time?
so this is sort of, I remember being in there and I didn't really know that it was PTSD, but it was definitely PTSD. I mean, I just was really mentally screwed up at the time. And those around me kind of thought, gosh, if Emily just stops drinking, then everything will be fine. That's all she needs to do is just stop drinking and all your problems, will work out. And so I went through that program and came out on the other side of it without a single bit of life skills I had a better understanding about what was going on with me, but I didn't have the tools or the skills to like apply it into my own life. And it wasn't long after where this is the part of sobriety that I really think is so worthy of a conversation, is that I could get sober, working the 12 steps, doing those types of things. I could get sober. What I couldn't do is stay sober, primarily because I did not want to deal with reality.
Yeah. Powerful. Life on life's terms. That's what one of my earliest mentors would say. He said, Brad, you don't have a problem with drinking and drugs. You got a problem with life on life's terms.
Exactly. Yeah. And
I think too, that
goes
is
way back though, for some of us,
Mm-hmm. Well, for sure. Yeah. And I think too, that is a thought process out there that it's like the alcohol is the problem and it's causing all these problems and it's not helping anything, but it's, it's learning how to deal with the emotions and the emotional sobriety and everything else too, after we, get sober, right? And learning those tools and how do we implement them. A lot of people I work with, this is what I see, right? They've listened to all the podcasts, they read all the books, they went to the programs, they've had the therapist, they have everything. That's on one side of the bridge. On the other side of the bridge is the sobriety. It's like, how do we implement all of the stuff we know and how do we bring it into our daily life of everything that we've learned or, the things we're trying to do? Like, how do we kind of cross that bridge and practice these things and whatever it is that we're doing?
I mean, you're spot on. And I think, drinking, that was my answer. It wasn't my problem.
Yeah.
That was my answer. And it didn't matter in these moments because there's this kind of thing of like hyper analyzing a relapse. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been lectured about a relapse prevention, all these types of things from people who have never, ever experienced it.
I'm curious on that too, though, about relapses, because I think in the notes that were sent over, like you experienced it a lot. It was something you went through quite a bit. Is that true?
Yeah,
Did I read that right or no?
No, that's right. So like the first time I got sober, I stayed sober for a couple of years. And then again, I got sober for a little over 4 years. But then when I relapsed, I can't remember what year it was. It was, I guess, the very beginning of 2010, maybe. It was just, I mean, I couldn't do any of it. And there was never, starting back from the days still in Texas as a single mom, it's not like I had this idea I could drink again, or that I thought maybe, I don't have a problem, or I'll be able to manage it this time. I mean, I knew from my first foot in a meeting that I knew I was an alcoholic, 100%. There was no doubt. It's the fact that I have this weight on me of so much, I can't even explain it. And I cannot go, it's like my feelings are going to kill me. I can't go on one more minute, and I just don't care right now. I have to stop feeling this. And I'll drink. And I don't care the consequences of the time.
Yeah.
And also, I knew it wouldn't end well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff about relapse that just completely was not my experience at all. And it's not to say that isn't other people's experience. It just wasn't mine.
Yeah. I'm curious too on that because you mentioned that you knew you were an alcoholic and you knew that it wasn't going to end well. And then you go back to drink it anyway. Do you feel that there's any difference between knowing and accepting like this as my truth or my life, or is there any difference there for you?
Yeah, I think there is definitely a difference. I certainly had both, right? I mean, I knew enough that it's not like I had the power to change it. And it didn't matter if I liked it or not. It was a fact. And I just don't think these kind of like basic tools for living, you get to a point where no option looks good. And I'm going to pick the one that I know the best.
Yeah.
And that works.
Yeah, the one that works.
And that works the quickest. And
yeah,
it might kill me, but I feel like I'm already getting killed. So
yeah,
I'm curious.
I mean, there's the two sides of the coin there too, right? Like the pain that you're experiencing and going through feels like it's going to kill you. And then the drinking, on the other hand, feels like it is as well, so, but you go with what you know is going to work and is going to work fast. It's always interesting though. I hear a lot in these stories that people relate to alcohol, it works so well, but then a lot of people seem to share, maybe towards the end or something, man, it stopped delivering on its promise of how it took away the emotional pain. And then maybe at some point too, the scales start to really shift. Like at some point it seems like there is consequence, but maybe it's manageable consequence. And then maybe it seems like, okay, like things are starting to, it's really not working and all this stuff's happening. Like, did you experience that at all towards the end?
Oh my
Or no?
God. Yes. And this is deep. I don't know if are you a parent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 kids.
Yeah. I had young kids, and, I kind of sometimes say it like this, like first I experienced trauma and then I became the trauma. Like I was the trauma in my family. It was me, and I knew it, and it really destroyed me. Like I just could not believe who I was. And I think that that's also part of this thing. I don't really get into the conversations about what is addiction. Like, is it a disorder? Is it a brain disease? Is it, because I don't know. I'm not a scientist, and I'm also not an addiction specialist other than my life, but it doesn't matter what I know. It doesn't matter how smart I am. It is in me. It has me. And that's my experience. So much of what we think or reflect on is coming from a safer space. We're not in it. It's like the saying I love, I can't read the label on the jar when I'm in it. And I, in the end, had been institutionalized, educated. Everyone had something to say to, quote, fix me. And it was my entire life was sobriety. Like this was the end goal. God, how can we fix her? What is she doing wrong? No, you're not being honest. No, you're not, this kind of thing. And everybody schooled me nonstop. And some of it was damaging, some of it was helpful, but it doesn't matter if I'm still inside this disease. I cannot control it. And that's the real hell of it. And that's why rehab kind of gets a rap itself. Like, well, it obviously didn't work because you came home from, from long-term treatment and you relapsed, got arrested, went to jail within 10 days, Emily. Clearly something didn't work. And yes, that's true. There are things that are not working. But also, I mean, shit, I was still alive. Like, it saved my life. And I can't knock that too much.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of, the building blocks maybe in a sense, right? It's so interesting kind of where you're at now in your story. And then you kind of go back. And I think that all of what you said there was really good. But this is kind of I don't know, this has been a thing that I've been humming and hawing about for some time now. And honestly, it kind of drives me a bit crazy, drives me a little bit stir crazy, because you go back to when you were 25 there, 25-ish, and we're talking about, was there anything that could have been said or done? And maybe you change your path, right? And you had a really good point. You had a really good point there. Like, I can't, you know what I mean? I can't take what I know now and go back there and give that answer type deal. But it kind of sounds like, I think for a lot of people they share, which is sort of the most difficult thing, I think, about all of this, is that it has to run its course in maybe some sense. There has to kind of be that swing of things about it's working to where it's not working and there's some stuff involved. And now it kind of sounds like heading towards sobriety. These things are kind of happening. Not a whole lot of it makes sense. And 20 rehabs or institutions and hospitals and, all that stuff, and hearing everything. And was there anything that you could put a finger on too? I'm asking a lot here, I know, for you to go back to, where you were in that moment.
Yeah.
But is there any way that you could have seen maybe something different about a conversation or something, anything?
So do you mean like what I can see now that maybe I needed that I didn't realize then? Yeah.
Would love that. Yeah.
I think I needed, number one, I needed a friend and not a savior at the time. I just needed someone to love me, listen to me without correcting or trying to fix something about me. And I also think that I needed to figure out how to live. I needed just actual living without alcohol experience. And I don't think anybody ever really got, I don't want to say nobody at any of these places like talked about it with me, because that definitely could have been, but it didn't sink into me. And the expectations for sobriety for someone who is on like life and death, like there's no way to put it other than, I should have died multiple times in my story. And for somebody like that, like clearly there was something going on beyond the alcohol.
Mm.
And that really didn't get the, I don't think it got dealt with on either end, on my end or whoever was on the other side of it. Because even I thought, hey, if I don't drink, everything's going to get better. And certain institutions and programs have this kind of this presumption that we've got all the time and space to focus on our sobriety once we stop drinking. But I was, I know it's trendy to say trad mom, but I mean, I was a stay-at-home mom with 4 kids, a husband who worked probably 12 or 13-hour days in a place where I didn't have any family or any friends. And we are financially strapped. There was no help coming in for cooking or cleaning. And when we did have that, I didn't understand it. I didn't connect with it. Like, why would you do my laundry while I'm sitting right here? It's so weird. But, I didn't know how to do just simple things in a way that I felt I measured up to other moms. And I know that goes off a little bit, but it also kind of goes into this idea of, okay, what really is sobriety? And how are we really going to have enough space in this community to be more accepting of what other people are saying? Just because my truth doesn't match your truth, Brad, doesn't mean that we aren't both 100% accurate. And I feel like there's some both old and new lanes where someone knows me better than I know myself at this point. And that's kind of why, like, I have no advice for anybody, because so much of what lands us in addiction is super complicated and historical.
So true. Yeah. So some people ask me, hey, can I get some advice for this? And I'm just like, I don't know the whole story. Like, I would just be pointing you down a generalized direction without knowing anything that's going on. It's like all the time, how do you get sober? And it's like, man, I mean, load it right up. Getting sober, like you've shared consistently throughout this, I mean, that was one hurdle. Like, don't get me wrong, that's a tough one to get over, but that's literally just a speck of sand to, like, how do we stay sober and how do we create this new life and go about things differently? And I mean, so many aspects. And then everybody's story that they've lived, if they're 35 or 45, when they decide to go on this journey, it's like, there's all of that as well that, takes years. I mean, it takes you literally years to kind of go through, and could take decades as well. But I think that the not drinking aspect, for me anyway, and the sobriety part, I had to get that part right, because without it, I was so checked out. Like, I was so checked out of the ability, maybe in the nervous system or emotionally or maturity wise, to even open up the chest and see what else was going on. So
definitely. And I'm just one of those stories that, it's sort of like, how'd you finally get sober? Like, why aren't you still doing this? And
tell us. Share it with us.
Yeah. I was at my last rehab, and I went going in there knowing I've got to be willing to just turn off everything that I've already been taught, because, man, it's everything. It's so much. And it came down to, do I, Emily, want to live, or do I want to die? Because I cannot live with everything that I've done in my life, especially to my children. And I got to figure it out. I got to figure it out for myself. because otherwise, this is how I felt. Somebody's going to die. Like, that's all that's left in my story is somebody is going to die. It might be me, but it might be somebody else. I mean, I don't know. And I think that's, I mean, the whole, like, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I mean, that had been years in the making. Like, that was an old thing. But I think that there's a part of me that others can relate to where we have these experiences while we're in addiction that are just so unforgivable that I think I should be punished. And if nobody else is going to do it, I'll do it. I'll punish myself because I couldn't stop replaying the past. And I really had to do this terrifying thing of the way to get over the past is to go back and see it. And I hate to say deal with it because I had been dealing, with it. But how do I forgive myself so that I can move forward? And there's this part where I was like, okay, this is time. And it was, my family was so sick of visiting day at rehabs that it was like, they came for the cookies, it was like, okay. But my son was in kindergarten and he was talking and talking and talking to me, just talking my ear off. And I'm sitting there staring at him, thinking about all the fucked up things that I missed and failed at as a mother. Well, he's just sitting with his mom. Like I'm just his mom. I'm not this tragedy that I think I am. And I looked at him and I said, gosh, Spencer, I miss you so much. And he stopped talking, looked at me like I was a complete idiot and said, Mom, I'm right here.
Yeah.
And it really hit me what I was doing. I was just torturing myself, extending it, and I was running out of time. So I dug into AA and didn't read a single book, just tried to reestablish. I kind of fired God and said, hey, look, this isn't working. We need to start over. Let's do a fresh meet and greet and go from there. So that was a really big deal for me, spiritually. And then I just really leaned into my own version of spirituality. I don't know if other people, because I didn't read anything about it. I just did what felt right. And it did help. It helped a lot. And also just being able to say, this is a little bit of a tangent, as I'm totally on a tangent, but the idea of the opposite of addiction is connection. And I cringed every time I heard that because I was like, no, it's not. But I think the little caveat about that is that if I don't know who I am, I'm not going to be connecting at all. And I really wanted to connect with, hashtag sober mom. I wanted to connect with, my local recovery community and things like that without having any idea who I was. And so it's like, first thing, I've got to figure out, I got to know myself. I got to get to know me. Then I kind of got to start to like me. And if there's not a redeeming quality about somebody in my life, I'm not real likely to forgive them for something that they've done to me. But if I do like them and I do know them and I do have an understanding of them, then I'm going to be more forgiving and compassionate. And I had to start with myself. And once I did that, then it was sort of completely changed the things that were important, my priorities, those types of things. And it's different for everybody, but that was really a big thing for me.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. I just want to share like when you got sober and maybe a minute of what it's been like, and then the title of your book, and we'll end with that.
Okay, great. So I did get sober since 2016 when I was at that rehab.
Yeah.
And I've stayed sober, completely sober since that time. I really had to address some mental health issues and some cognitive issues that do affect my life today. But my main goal right now is to like actually just live a simple life and be okay with it. And my number one thing is that I like having nothing in my life that I don't need, so that I can have time for my kids, so that I can have time to do things that maybe I never did throughout my life. So I'm very adventurous and curious about learning things about, I'm like building doll houses and doing these things that are kind of strange, but just bring me a lot of joy. And I try not to get sucked into self-criticism because I want to be an example to my own kids. And so we're really focused on breaking cycles. And I wrote a book that took me 7 years to do, and it's called Wise Mother Drunk. It's an intergenerational memoir that goes into like who came before me and what did we all sort of pick up. There was a massive military history in the men in my family with frontline combat from World War II, and my dad was in Vietnam and what came from that. And then also I come from pioneers, so it has to do with the women's aspect of like, what were they doing and how did they, the silence and the things that they were unable to deal with. So it's an example of a book that's just someone's story and take from it whenever you want. So.
Wow. That sounds like quite the journey to go on to put this 7 years in the making to put it together. So proud of you, Emily, for where you're at now.
Thank you.
Incredible job. I have a feeling too, like the hour goes fast, hour, 10 minutes here. I feel like we only like scratched barely the surface on this. So if somebody does pick up the book, I mean, is it going to fill in some of the blanks that maybe we didn't have time to cover with here today?
Yeah, for sure. And I also think one of the things that reviewers have been saying about it is like, it is not a gloss over of what it really looks like inside, behind the curtain of these homes for a mother who's just really like, what does it feel like for her? What's going on? And then also like this ability to kind of do this reflective, like, what is it that we're carrying? But yeah, it's a very honest and unflattering look at what my life was like and how the happily ever after of sobriety looks different for everybody. And mine is there's things that are just always going to be the way they are, and they're not ideal, but they're still they're still good. They're still the best life I could have asked for.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I feel like you just left me anyway on the ultimate cliffhanger there to reading the book. Beautiful job. Really appreciate you jumping on here and sharing your journey with us. And best of success for the book launch and everything to come for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate what you do to just get people's stories out there. And that's really where I think the magic is in our experience, strength, and hope, in our stories. And people can't pick up on what they need to. And I'm really grateful that you're out there doing that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Well, there it is. Another incredible episode here on the podcast. Thank you for listening to the end. Also, I'm looking for some more stories. So I know if you listen all the way to the end that you're a big fan of the show. So send me an email, send me a message on Instagram. Let's connect and see if we could share your story on the podcast. And I'll see you on the next one.